How's it going, everybody? We're back again. Lampini here with Week 15's predictions. We only got a couple more videos left until the playoffs. Week 14 definitely had its share of surprises. We're going to go over it when we go over our Week 15 predictions. Without further ado, let's get into it with Thursday Night Football. So our first matchup, we have the San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks. I think both of these games were incredibly significant to both teams. The San Francisco 49ers absolutely demolished the Buccaneers 35-7. The Buccaneers didn't score their last touchdown until the fourth quarter, so the 49ers basically pitched a shutout, which is incredible. Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy had a pretty good game. He was 16-21 for 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 134 passer rating. And then Christian McCaffrey had 14 carries for 119 yards and a touchdown. One Instagram analyst that I watched pretty much sums it up, where they were like, his post was basically, I could play quarterback and win with the 49ers. They are a very rare breed where their team is so well-rounded and they're so well-coached, anyone can succeed in their situation. I think that's an example of Brock Purdy I don't think Brock Purdy is a bad quarterback by any stretch. I just think he's in the absolute best situation to succeed. And it's showing in this game. So he's doing really well. No matter who's under center for the 49ers, they are a threat. As for the Seahawks, they had a really bad loss against the Panthers. The Seahawks have lost 3 of their last 4 games. They were 6-3 at one point. Now they're 7-6. They've lost their playoff spot, and they're in a bit of trouble here. Geno Smith has also kind of been falling a little bit. He was 21 of 36 for 264 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and 85.9 passer rating. While I think Geno Smith is going to be the Seahawks starter in 2023, I think his MVP caliber season is kind of falling at the wayside now. I do think he's going to win Comeback Player of the Year with how much he has reestablished himself. It's beyond impressive is the best way that I can say it. However, I think that, the Seahawks really needed that win, and they lost it. However, there's another team that you all probably know that could have used their win last week a lot more, and they should have won. I'm going to be going with the 49ers on this one. They are just looking incredible, honestly. Even with a third-string quarterback, they're going to be a threat. So I'm going to be going with the 49ers on this one. So something else that's interesting going into next week is this marks the beginning of Saturday games. Our first Saturday game is going to be the Indianapolis Colts at the Minnesota Vikings. Both of these teams had terrible losses last week. The Colts lost, they had a bye last week. So in Week 13, they lost 54-19 against the Cowboys. And then the Vikings lost 34-23 against the Lions. Now, we're going to discuss the Lions in a bit of detail later, but I don't think that the Lions are any chumps, really. So maybe not a bad loss on the Vikings, but it's weird. The Vikings have a negative point differential, and they're 10-3 somehow. Like, that alone is insane. I'm pretty sure the 7-9 Commanders had a negative point differential, but they were 7-9. Vikings are 10-3. That basically means that they got blown out in all of their losses, and all their wins were really close, is what I get from that. Kirk Cousins was 31 of 41 for 425 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 124.5 passer rating. So he had probably one of the best games of his career. He threw for over 400 yards and 120 passer rating, which is incredible for Kirk Cousins. And on top of that, Justin Jefferson had 11 receptions for 223 yards. That's a franchise record that Justin Jefferson just broke, beating the likes of Chris Carter and Randy Moss. It's insane. Justin Jefferson is making his case for Offensive Player of the Year. It really is just astounding. Yet they lost by 2 possessions. It's incredible. I think the Vikings are going to stamp over the Colts. The Colts are one of the worst teams in the league right now. They're about a game shy of being eliminated from playoff contention. The Vikings they're at home. They need a good bounce back win, and I think they're going to get it against the Colts, so I'm going to be going with the Vikings on this one. So next up, we have the Baltimore Ravens at the Cleveland Browns. The Ravens barely squeaked out a win against the Steelers, 16-14. Fun fact, that's the first time the Ravens have beaten the Steelers in this decade. The last time they had beaten them was in 2019 when Ben Roethlisberger was out and Mason Rudolph was playing. That was the Myles Garrett swing the helmet game. So that gives you an idea of how long ago that was. Now, I'm not too sure if Lamar is going to play or not. I don't know if they're going to keep him out so he can get rested up for the playoffs, because right now the Ravens are very close to clinching. But in the game, Tyler Huntley was 8 of 12 for 88 yards and an 88.2 passer rating. He as well left the game with a concussion. He should be good to play this week, though. This is what's good about having a quarterback like Tyler Huntley, where he's just borderline starter potential, where you can plug him in a fix to, win or play well and win. The Browns, they lost to the Bengals 23-10. Was not a good showing at all from them. Deshaun Watson threw his first touchdown since going in Cleveland Browns. He was 26 of 42, 276 yards, a touchdown, a pick, a 79.1 passer rating. So, pretty average game on his part. And then Donovan Peoples-Jones had 8 receptions for 114 of those yards. So, the Browns are a work in progress right now. They're 5-8 right now. They're not going anywhere. I think they're technically still alive in the AFC. They're 2 games back from the number 7 seed, but a lot would have to go right for the Browns to make the playoffs. It's not going to happen. They're going to have to start by beating the Commanders, which I don't think is going to happen, right? So I'm going to be going with the Ravens on this one. And now for the Saturday night game, we have the Miami Dolphins at the Buffalo Bills. Now, Bills, they beat the Jets 20-12. Josh Allen was 16 of 27 for 147 yards, 1 touchdown, and an 86.5 passer rating. Not a bad showing. I think his elbow is still bothering him, though, because he hasn't been having some of the great games that he has early in the season. As for the Dolphins, they narrowly squeaked out a win against the Chargers 23-17. Actually, no, that's not correct. The Chargers beat them. Yeah, the Chargers won 23-17. Excuse me. The Dolphins have now lost 2 in a row. Something that I think is interesting is the way their season started. They won 3 straight, then they lost 3 straight, then they won 5 straight, and now they've lost 2 straight. It may end up being 3 because they're playing the Bills. Tua had another bad game. He was 10 of 28, 145 yards, 1 touchdown, and a 65.3 passer rating. 10 of 28 is not a good completion percentage for Tua. That is way below 50%. And then Tyreek Hill had 4 receptions for 81 yards and a touchdown. And he had that phenomenal fumble recovery touchdown as well, where the ball bounced into his hands and he just ran around everybody and scored a touchdown. One of the more entertaining touchdowns of the season. Even still, the Dolphins lost to the Chargers. And while that was a season-saving win for the Chargers, that's a game that the Dolphins really should have came away with. And I'm pretty sure I voted for the Dolphins also. This is what happens when you have a team that isn't used to the success that they have, is they end up losing games like this. The Dolphins aren't used to this kind of success. Like I said, they haven't won a playoff game since the year 2000. So they are not used to being as good a team as they are. That being said, they are still about a win or 2 away from clinching a playoff berth. So what's going to happen in this game, though, it's in Buffalo. I think the Bills are too strong of a team to get upset by the Dolphins. It is a divisional round matchup, so you never know what's going to happen. But I'm going to go with the Bills on this one. I think they're going to win. So next up, we have probably one of the biggest layup games of the week. We have the Philadelphia Eagles at the Chicago Bears. Now, again, everyone's saying the Eagles are pretenders. They're the worst, 11-1 win team in the NFL, yada, yada, yada. I don't buy that. I really don't. They went on the road against the Giants and scored 48 points. That is insanity. Jalen Hurts was 21 of 31 for 217 yards, 2 touchdowns, 109.2 passer rating. And then Miles Sanders had 17 carries for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's just crazy. Like, the Eagles are a powerhouse, and it's exciting when a team like this just completely blows everyone out of the water in the regular season. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the playoffs when they face teams with a bit more playoff experience. I think if they don't go to at least the conference championship, it's going to be a disappointment for them. But right now, they're a Super Bowl bound team. And I truly believe that, because they are, it's not even close. With some of these teams that they're playing, it is not even close. like, if I can just like look at this really quick, see what their margin of victory has been. So these last 4 games, they barely edged out the Colts 17-16. They beat the Packers 40-33. They beat the Titans 35-10. And then they beat the Giants 48-22. The last 3 games, they've scored over 35 points. A lot of these other wins, they beat the Texans by scoring 29. They beat the Steelers by scoring 35. Beat the Cowboys by scoring 26. They beat the Jaguars by scoring 29. Week 1, they scored 38 points against the Lions. The Eagles are a prolific offense. They have a great defense. They're about as close to a complete team right now as you get. And it's incredible, really. And they have a top 5 draft pick in next year's draft. Like, beggars belief. But as for the Bears are the Bears. We all pretty much know their situation right now. They're in rebuild mode. All they really have going for them is Justin Fields, who, incidentally, was 20 of 25, 254 yards, and 2 interceptions for a 75.5 passer rating in their Week 13 loss to the Packers. He also had 6 carries for 71 yards and a touchdown. So once again, Justin Fields is kind of the entire offense for Chicago. It's going to be brutal. If the Bears beat the Eagles, it will probably be one of the biggest upsets of the season, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going with the Eagles to advance to 13-1. So next up, a bit of an inconsequential game, so I'm kind of just going to glance over it. We have the Atlanta Falcons at the New Orleans Saints. Both these teams lost. Both of these teams were on a bye, actually. So 2 weeks ago, the Falcons lost to the Steelers 19-16, and then the Falcons lost to the Bucs 17-16. That was that game-winning drive that Tom Brady orchestrated to defeat the Saints. This game has no implications. Both these teams are losing franchises. The Falcons are kind of close to catching up to the Buccaneers because if I remember correctly, the Falcons are 2 games behind the Buccaneers. They're 5-8 right now, and then the Buccaneers are 6-7. So if the Falcons win and the Bucs lose this week, then I guess there's a chance they can, slot themselves into the playoff race, which I guess gives them something to fight for. But I mean, what are they fighting for? To be bounced in the first round of the playoffs? I have no idea. But because the Falcons have more to fight for and the Saints are kind of a team in disarray, I'm going to be going with the Falcons on this one. So now, a game that has a lot more playoff implications. We have the Detroit Lions at the New York Jets. 2 teams that were so used to being bad are now fighting for playoff spots. Now, the Lions, they are 6-7. They had a really bad losing streak in the middle of the season, but it seems like they're getting some of their momentum back. They scored 34 points and beat the 10-3 Vikings. Very impressive victory. Jared Goff was 27 of 39 for 330 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 120.7 passer rating. There's one thing I've learned from this trade with Jared Goff going to the Lions is that the Lions have their quarterback. They really do. Jared Goff has had a very respectable season. It almost felt like when Jared Goff moved from the Rams to the Lions, it was his career, he was kind of on his way out as a quarterback, but he's really thrived in Detroit's system. Say what you want about the Lions defense. Their offense is very good. It is very, very productive. So, they could give the Jets a run for their money, but that being said, the Jets have an elite defense. So the Jets would benefit from keeping this a low-scoring game. The Lions would benefit from making it a high-scoring game. For the Jets, they lost to the Bills 20-12. Mike White was 27 of 44 for 268 yards, a 78.6 passer rating. He left the game with rib injuries, but then he came back. He's going to play, basically. I think that, Mike White, is a better quarterback than Zach Wilson. At the moment, I think Zach Wilson has a higher ceiling. But we're starting to kind of see where Mike White's ceiling is. He had that great game against the Bears, but when he faces actual competition, he plays like a regular, below-average starting quarterback. I still think they should play Joe Flacco. I think he still gives them the best chance to succeed. But, what do I know? This game is certainly going to be interesting, though, because the Lions are on the outside looking in. They're the number 9 seed right now. And now that you mentioned it, so is the Jets. The Jets, with the Patriots winning and the Chargers winning, the Jets just got bounced all the way down to the 7th seed. Now, they're 7-6, like the Chargers and the Patriots. They all have the same record. But that means that this is a game the Jets really need to play for. And a loss here would be bad for both teams. A loss pretty much ends the Lions' hopes of playoff implications. And then a loss makes things even harder for the Jets. They basically can't afford to lose another game. So there's a lot on the line. There's a lot on the line in this game. What I anticipate happening is, I think this is going to be similar to what the Lions did to the Vikings, where it's going to be a high-scoring game. The Lions are going to be able to beat out the Jets' defense, and then the Jets are going to try and meekly fight back with their offense, but the Lions are still going to win. They're probably going to, put up 30 points, and then the Jets will probably fall short and score like 20 or 24 points. So I'm going to be going with the Lions on this one to move to 7-7. So our next game is the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers had a very strong win against the Seahawks, 30-24, and Sam Darnold played respectably. He was 14-24, 120 yards, and a touchdown for an 85.4 passer rating. So not bad at all. It seems like the Panthers have a good ethos in terms of their team, because I remember there was a point where people were saying the Panthers were the worst team in the league. They may be a franchise in disarray, but I don't think they're the worst team. Like, there's a difference between a franchise itself being in a disarray with like bad ownership and the team itself playing badly. The Panthers are 5-8, sure, but I think that's well above what we expected them to be. That's 2 or 3 more wins than we expected them to have. And upsetting a team like Seattle on the road it's respectable. It's something you're not really expecting from a team like the Panthers. As for the Steelers, they had a chance to beat the Ravens last week, and they fell short. Like I said, the Steelers pretty much needed to win this game to stay in contention. If they had won this game, they would have been 6-7, and they would have been right there with a lot of these other teams. Now that they lost this game, the best they can do is 9-8. So if they win out, they keep their winning record streak that they've had since 2003. Don't think it's going to happen. Kenny Pickett left the game early with a concussion, so Mitchell Trubisky played most of the game. And he reminded us why he's not the starter. He was 22 of 30 for 276 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions for 73.1 passer rating. So what I think is funny is, out of the 7 incompletions Mitch Trubisky had, 5 of them were actual incompletions, and then 3 of them were interceptions. I find that kind of humorous, but what's going to happen in this game? I mean, they're both 5-8. I think that the Panthers have shown a lot more than the Steelers have, but like, you can never count out the Steelers. But then again, like, now that I think about it, the Falcons are 5-8, and so are the Panthers. The Panthers have a chance to make a playoff run as well. If they win and the Buccaneers lose this week, they're also in the running to lead their division. Could you imagine? Oh my God. So the Panthers have more to play for, surprisingly. So I'm going to go with the Panthers. So this next game is poised to be quite an interesting one. We have the Dallas Cowboys at the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going to start with the Jaguars here. They demolished the Titans 36-22. The Titans started off real strong. Derrick Henry was getting going. But Trevor Lawrence is showing us again why he was so highly rated, having probably the best game of his career. He was 30 of 42, 368 yards, 3 touchdowns, 121.9 passer rating. And then Evan Engram, his top target, had 11 receptions, 162 yards, and 2 touchdowns. The best game of his career as well. Like, it's really weird. Like, I think this is what happens when you have an all-star quarterback. You can have games like this. You know, the Jaguars aren't a very good team, but it's clear that they're on the way up, and it's clear that they're not going to roll over and die for a lot of these teams. Like, the Titans usually run over the Jaguars. It didn't happen this time. The Titans started by scoring 14 points in the first quarter, and the Jaguars responded by scoring 13 points in the second and third quarter. And, you know, they tacked on 3 points in the fourth quarter for extra measure. But incredibly impressive. And that's why I don't think we can take this game lightly with the Cowboys, because the Cowboys almost lost to the Texans. If Houston makes that 4th and goal and scores a touchdown, the Cowboys lose that game. But fortunately, they didn't. They drove the ball down the field and scored and won the game. Dak Prescott was 24-39, 284 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and a 70.9 passer rating. And then Tony Pollard and Zeke both had rushing touchdowns on the day. The Cowboys, for as much as people want to call them Super Bowl contenders, they'll have a game like this where they almost lose to a 1-win jobber team in the Houston Texans. The Texans are the jobbers of the NFL. They play a team and they make that team look good. That's what happens. That's what happened when they played the Commanders. Like, the Commanders beat them so easily, and that's not something the Commanders do very often. So, but like, the Cowboys can't have these kind of games in the playoffs, or even against a team like the Jaguars for that matter, where their offense stalls and, you know, they're not as prolific as they should be. Because when you face a team like the Jaguars with how they played last week, they're just going to rack up points against you. The Cowboys are going to be in a big hole, and they're going to have to try and find a way out of it. So that being said, don't be surprised if the Jaguars surprise here, because they have had some pretty good games these last couple weeks. I am ultimately going to be going with the Cowboys, though. Like everyone says, they're Super Bowl contenders. They're a 10-win team right now. The only reason they don't lead our division is because the best team in the NFL is in first place. But they comfortably have the 5th seed. And I believe that means they're going to be playing the 4th seed, which means they're going to be playing a team from the NFC South, whether it's Tampa Bay or, you know, the Panthers or the Falcons or whatever. So that's going to be an easy win for the Cowboys. And then we'll see what happens in the divisional round. But for now, I'm going to be going with the Cowboys. So next up, we have the Kansas City Chiefs at the Houston Texans. We basically have the best against the worst here. The Texans, once again, they fought hard against the Cowboys and showed that they're not here just to lose. They're still playing hard. You want to root for a team like that. I remember when I was a kid, I used to be a huge Houston Texans fan because I liked their logo and uniform. When I had Madden 2004, I would play as them a lot. But that's beside the point. I digress. They are not going to beat the Chiefs. I'll keep this very brief. The Chiefs had a tough game against the Broncos. They won 34-28, but Mahomes threw 3 interceptions. He was 28 of 42, 352 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 86.6 passer rating. The Broncos do have an elite defense, which, you know, I think they said the Broncos have the best defense in the AFC. But that doesn't excuse 28 points, and it certainly doesn't excuse 3 interceptions. I think Mahomes is going to be fine. I think he'll have games like this every now and then. He can't have many more of them. If this is the last time he has a game like this, they'll be fine. But like, the Chiefs are just in such a different league than the Texans. I don't anticipate an upset happening. It'll be the biggest upset of the season if the Texans end up winning, but I don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. I'm going to be going with the Chiefs on this one. So next up, we have the Arizona Cardinals at the Denver Broncos. First things first, Kyler Murray left the game with a knee injury on the 3rd play of the game. Now, I don't know what that injury is yet. If there's an update, I'll obviously put it up on the screen here, but it did not look good. Any kind of non-contact knee injury immediately says it's an ACL. Now, neither of these teams are going anywhere, and especially the Cardinals, but especially the Broncos. Neither one of these teams is going anywhere. That being said, Russell Wilson probably had his best game of the season before he left with a concussion. He was 23 of 36, 247 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and 100.1 passer rating. And then Jerry Jeudy had his best game, 8 receptions, 73 yards, 3 touchdowns. The hat trick from Jerry Jeudy, very impressive there. Again, this has been Russell Wilson's best game. It's a shame he left the way that he did, you know, with the concussion. Hopefully, they might actually keep him out of the game because they know that he's their future. But any game to leave getting hurt, this is a pretty good game for that because it shows that he does still have a little bit with him. I don't know. He might be able to come back and surprise some people next season when the team regroups a little bit. This may just be an off year for Russ, but I'm going to be going with the Broncos on this one. The Cardinals they have no talent on their team. Their talent is Kyler Murray, and if they don't have Kyler Murray, they don't have much of anything. So the elite defense of Denver is going to win this game for them. I'm going with the Denver Broncos. So next up, we have the New England Patriots at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders do it again. They blow another lead. I stopped watching this game around the fourth quarter when it was 13-3. Going into the fourth quarter, I was like, okay, this game's over. They're not going to do anything. In a similar vein to the Ravens, if I can just pull up this graph here, the Raiders have lost 4 games leading by 2 possessions at halftime. That is insane. Winning this game would have been big for the Raiders because they would have been 6-7, much like the Steelers. They would have been in the playoff race. Now that they lost this game, it's not going to happen. Derek Carr was 11 of 20, 137 yards, 2 interceptions for a 36.9 passer rating. They needed to win this game, and they blew it. To put it simply, the Raiders have had such a weird season because they won 3 of their last 4 or something like that and looked really impressive doing it. Then they play the Rams, which are the worst reigning champions in NFL history, and they blow another lead in the fourth quarter. It's unbelievable. I just can't believe it. I can't believe it. And Baker being the hero that he was. And then the Patriots have elevated themselves to the 7th seed. They beat the Cardinals 27-13. Pretty easy victory on their part. As long as Bill Belichick is the head coach, they will be contenders. We're kind of seeing what the Patriots are without Tom Brady. They're a low-tier playoff team. Tom Brady is really the guy that brought them a little bit over the edge there. Speaking of Tom Brady, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes to the Raiders next season with Josh McDaniels there. Maybe Tom Brady in the silver and black sounds pretty intimidating if you ask me. We'll have to wait and see. It'll be interesting. But in this game, I'm going to be going with the Patriots. They control their own destiny right now. Bill Belichick against Josh McDaniels. I think that Belichick is going to be able to know Josh McDaniels more than Josh McDaniels is going to know Bill Belichick. I think the Patriots are going to win this one pretty easily. So our next game is the Tennessee Titans at the LA Chargers. So the Titans had a bad loss, like I said, to the Jacksonville Jaguars, 36-22. And then the Chargers had a very good victory against the Dolphins that pretty much saved their playoff hopes. Yeah, the Titans are 7-6 right now. They're still at the top of their division, and the team that's closest to getting them is the Jaguars, and they're still 2 games back. So it's really weird. We have 2 really bad divisions. We have the NFC South, and we got the AFC South. The Southern Division just not doing too hot, I guess. But anyway, the Titans started off really well. Like I said, they ended the first quarter up 14-7, and then Jacksonville scored 26 unanswered points. Absolute insanity. Ryan Tannehill was 25 of 38, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, and interception for a 91.3 passer rating. Derrick Henry got going in the first quarter as well. 17 carries, 121 yards, and a touchdown. It's a typical Derrick Henry game. But again, like I said, it just didn't last. Then you have the Chargers, who Justin Herbert was 39 of 51, 367 yards, a touchdown, and 102.3 passer rating. Extremely impressive game on his part. And then we have Mike Williams, who had 6 receptions for 116 yards and a touchdown. The Chargers have so much talent in their passing game, you wonder why the Chargers coaching staff isn't fully utilizing it. Again, they are 7-6. They are not in the playoffs yet, but they have the same record as the Patriots. They could easily squeak into that 7th seed. They have to start by beating the Titans first, and it's going to be no easy game. These are 2 teams that blow leads like nobody's business. They blow games that they should win like nobody's business. So this could really go either way. But this is a game that the Chargers need a lot more than the Titans. However, the Titans do not want to go into the playoffs flat. If they lose this game, they'll be 7-7. And that's not going to be a good look for them, because if they have 7 losses, the best record they can have is 10-7, which is, to be honest, a pretty weak record for a division-winning team. I ultimately am going to go with the Tennessee Titans, though, purely because I think that this has the potential to be a very big Derrick Henry game, where the Chargers just can't stop him and Derrick Henry just dominates the game. So I am going to be going with the Titans on this one. It's a game, like I said, the Chargers need to win, but I don't think it's going to happen. So next up, we got the Cincinnati Bengals at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bengals are getting hot right around the right time, just like they did last year. They're playing their best football in December. Joe Burrow was 18 of 33, 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, and an 85.3 passer rating. They beat the Browns 23-10, beat them in convincing fashion. They're still the number 5 seeds because the Ravens have the divisional tiebreaker, but they're as good as any team in the AFC right now. I think they have a chance to return to the Super Bowl if they get hot just like they did in the playoffs last year. They're looking great. Jamar Chase coming back again, 10 receptions, 119 yards, and a touchdown. He's coming back strong. It's good that they have him nice and healthy come playoff time because that little hip injury was a bit of a problem, but it seems like he's back in working form, which is fantastic. Bengals are looking strong. As for Tampa Bay, they had a really bad loss to the 49ers. This is probably as low as it gets for Tom Brady. If Tom Brady loses this next game, this season will be the most losses Brady has ever had as a quarterback. You know, only took him 23 seasons to have a losing record, right? He was 34 of 55, 253 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and a 63.7 passer rating. So a bad game by Tom Brady. His offensive line did not help him. Like one of his interceptions, he kind of had to throw under pressure. And that's always been Brady's weakness. He's not very mobile, so the best way to get Brady to make mistakes is pressure him with, a good defensive line. That's how the Giants beat him in 2007 and 2011. That's Brady's big weakness, is an effective pass rush. So I think that, Brady's not washed. Like I said, if this is his last season with Tampa Bay, he can easily go to a different team and ball out with them. I still think at 45 years old, he is an upgrade over most quarterbacks in the league right now. Physically, he still has it, but his team is not there. They're still at the top of their division. Somehow, Lord knows how it happened this way. Tom Brady's the luckiest quarterback to ever play in the NFL. They're 6-7. A loss like this would be very bad because it leaves them right for the pickings for either the Panthers or the Falcons to... I don't know if they would overtake them because, you got to wonder what the divisional record is. The records would be the same and they'd be within striking distance. So Tampa Bay, not looking very good, and it's not looking good that they're playing against a team as good as the Bengals. Like again, you never know what's going to happen with Tom Brady. He really can just pull it out of nowhere to win some of these games. I don't think it's going to happen this time. The Bengals are too good of a team. I'm going to be going with the Bengals on this one. All right, guys, strap yourself in for this one. Sunday Night Football. It just got moved to this time slot. We have the New York Giants at the Washington Commanders. The great rematch from last week that ended in a 20-20 tie. Now, if you had to ask me, the Giants looked better in that game. We barely got into it with a 4th down conversion that Taylor Heineke had, and we were lucky that the Giants missed that field goal that would have won the game for them in overtime. We barely squeaked by with a tie. That was the better case scenario for us. However, I think we're going to do a lot better this time. We have had 2 weeks to prepare for the Giants after we played them in the previous week. So the Commanders have done nothing but think about the Giants for the past 3 weeks, really. Chase Young is going to be back, so their pass rush is going to get a huge upgrade. Taylor Heineke probably played his best game of the season. He was 27 of 41, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 101.2 passer rating. And then Terry McLaurin had 8 receptions for 105 yards and a touchdown. Terry McLaurin is fantastic. Top 10 wide receiver in the league. I truly believe that. But anyway, the Commanders are now the number 6 seed with the Giants and Seahawks both losing. The Giants now fall to the 7th, and the Commanders are now at the 6th seed. We'll go into a bit more detail when the playoffs roll around, but it's very impressive that they're in that situation. A win here would really, really help us hold on to that playoff spot. They're going to be nice and healthy coming off of the bye. They're going to be back at home. All signs point, and the Giants lost, all signs point to the Commanders winning this game. But, you don't want to get too overconfident. I am going to be going with the Commanders, though, because like the Giants had a bad loss to the Eagles. Again, you never know what's going to happen in a divisional game, but I really think the Commanders are going to be prepared for this. Chase Young will be back. Like, think of the front four that they have, because Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne, and Montez Sweat all have over 7 sacks, I believe, and they're all in the top 10 when it comes to tackles for loss. The Commanders' defensive line is probably the best in the NFL. I don't care what anyone says. When you look at those statistics, all 3 of those guys are having Pro Bowl caliber seasons. And then you just add in Chase Young, who's another Pro Bowl caliber defensive end. You have 4 Pro Bowlers on your defensive line. There's potential that they can just, if they can pressure them the whole game, they're going to win. I'm going with the Commanders on this one. And last but least, we have our Monday night showdown. Something that I think the schedule makers thought was going to be a very important game come December is now a huge afterthought. We have the LA Rams at the Green Bay Packers. Packers season is over. The Rams season is over. Baker Mayfield had an incredible showing on Thursday, beating out the Raiders. He was 22 of 35 for 230 yards, 1 touchdown, and a 91.4 passer rating. This looks like the career resurgence that Baker Mayfield needed. I think that he found a good spot for himself. If he can be a spot starter for the Rams, if Stafford goes down or is injured, because he's going to play the rest of the season. If Baker Mayfield becomes a spot starter, I think he can absolutely make a career being a backup and then finding a starting job later down the line. Because the thing is, you look at some of these other quarterbacks that are starting right now. I think Baker Mayfield would be an upgrade on the Jets. I think he'd be an upgrade on, the 49ers, he'd be an upgrade for. If I can just scroll through some of these teams here. He would probably be an upgrade on the Patriots, if you ask me. He'd be an upgrade. Yeah, I don't know if he'd be an upgrade for the Giants. I think that's kind of like an equal playing field. But he'd be an upgrade for the Texans. Like, he is a low-tier starter right now, unless proven otherwise. Because we've seen what he can do. In 2020, we pretty much saw what his ceiling was, potentially. And it's weird because he was in the position to succeed with the Browns. And, they tossed them aside, and that's neither here nor there. I think the Panthers weren't a good fit for him. They are a team in disarray. I think that he's found a better spot in LA. I think he's going to do a lot better. So I think he's going to be just fine. In this game, I think the Packers are still a good team. They just had some really bad losses that set them back. So I don't think that they're going to be, they're not going to be making the playoffs, obviously. But I do think they're going to beat the Rams. They beat the Bears. The Packers did beat the Bears 2 weeks ago for Week 13. They had their bye last week. In that game, Aaron Rodgers was 18 of 31, 182 yards, 1 touchdown, and 85.7 passer rating. I think it's safe to just assume that Aaron Rodgers is having an off year. I do think that there's a strong possibility he bounces back for his age 40 season in 2023. I don't think his career's over. I think that he's going to play out the end of his contract, and then we'll see if his career is over. But what we've seen with Tom Brady, you never know how long some of these guys are going to play. It's like, if they can physically still play, why would they retire? Because like with Peyton Manning and Drew Brees, they were done physically. I think they reached a point where they realized they couldn't play anymore. They couldn't stay healthy. They just couldn't do it anymore. But with Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, these guys don't get hurt, and they still play at a high level. So from their perspective, they still love what they do. Why would they retire? It's not like they have a family to go home to. Tom Brady doesn't anymore. So what's stopping them from just keeping on playing until they can't play anymore? That's how it goes with a lot of careers, You keep working until you can't work anymore, especially if you love what you're doing, which is what those two guys do. So Aaron Rodgers is not going to retire. He's not going to go to a different team. He's going to return to the Packers in 2023, and I think he's going to have a bounce-back season. I don't think he's going to have an MVP-level season, but I think he's going to have a typical Aaron Rodgers season next season. But I said season way too much in that description. Packers are going to win. There are my picks. Now, let's go to the playoff picture. So now, NFC, here we go. The Eagles have officially clinched a playoff spot, so they're at the number 1 seed at 12-1. Right now, we have the Vikings at number 2, again, 10-3. 49ers 9-4 at number 3. And then at the 4th seed, we have the 6-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Still astounding to me. Then we have the Cowboys at 10-3. So again, like the Cowboys have the second best record, yet they're the 5th seed because of the Eagles. It's just weird how that works, but you know, they're comfortably in there. And like I said, they're in a good position because they can just beat whoever the NFC South fields for the 4th seed, whether it's the Buccaneers, Panthers, or Falcons. They're going to win. They're going to beat whoever that is. If they lose, that's a huge upset, and Cowboys fans around the world should be disappointed. Anyway, 5 seeds are the Cowboys. Number 6 seeds are the Washington Commanders, and then the 7th seed are the New York Giants. So right now, the entire NFC East is in the playoffs. Crazy, right? On the bubble, we're going to exclude the 10th seed for now, which incidentally would be the 5-8 Green Bay Packers. On the 8th seed, we have the 7-6 Seattle Seahawks, and at the number 9 seed, we have the 6-7 Detroit Lions. So the Lions have somehow made themselves back into the playoff contention, a fighting chance here. They're playing the Vikings. They're going to be playing a good team in the New York Jets, which is going to be difficult. But like I said, they basically need to win out. They can't afford to lose another game. When they have 2 teams ahead of them right now for that 7th spot, they can't afford to lose another game. Fortunately, it looks as though the Giants and the Seahawks are kind of limping through the season. So they just got to keep playing tough football, and they might pull it off. But they're going to be playing well, I mean, now I think about it, if the Lions do end up becoming the 7th seed, they would play the 2nd seed, which is the Vikings, which they've beaten. So they might have a fighting chance to win a playoff game for the first time in 32 years. So that's that. AFC, here we go. The Bills are the number 1 seed at 10-3. The Chiefs are the number 2 seeds. They're also 10-3. This is pretty much what we expected, right? We expected the Bills and the Chiefs to fight for that number 1 seed, and it's happening right now in front of us. So who knows what's going to happen with that. Then at 9-4, we have the Baltimore Ravens, who have really hobbled to that record. If you've seen how they've been playing the last couple weeks, these last 4 games, the Ravens have not won convincingly, but they still won. Then the number 4 seed, we have the Tennessee Titans at 7-6. Again, they don't really have a lot of competition for the division outside of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 2 whole games back. So, it's possible, but I mean, if the Titans end up losing the division to the Jaguars, that's going to be embarrassing, right? So they just need to stay in front, stay above 500, and then they'll be fine. The wild card picture for the AFC is a lot more interesting than the NFC. At the number 5 seed are the Bengals. They're at a very comfortable 9-4. I don't think anyone's really going to supersede them. They're playing too good of football right now. Same goes for the Miami Dolphins at 8-5. They are a full game ahead of the remaining pack. So I don't unless they really start hobbling in these last couple games, I don't really foresee them going anywhere. And following the win on Monday night, the Patriots are now the number 7 seed at 7-6. But nipping at their heels are 2 other 7-6 teams. We have the Los Angeles Chargers and the New York Jets. Like I said, both of these teams are 7-6. But both the Chargers and the Jets are playing some difficult competition. Like I said, the Jets are playing the Lions, and then the Chargers are playing the Titans. So both the Jets and the Chargers are going to have to play playoff teams. So, the Lions aren't a playoff team, but they're playing playoff hopefuls, teams that have something to play for. Those 2 games right there are classic December football, right? So a lot going on in that picture. If you want my prediction, I think the Patriots are going to hold on to this. I think the Patriots aren't flashy, and I think that a lot of people think they're bad because of it, but they get results because they're a well-rounded, well-coached team. So I think that they are going to hold on to that spot. So those are my predictions for Week 15. Gosh, we're coming down to the wire. I only have 3 more videos after this, but don't worry, I'm still going to be covering the playoffs, so we're far from finished. I've been Lampini. Thank you guys for watching. I tried to keep this one a little bit shorter than some of my other ones. Hopefully y'all enjoyed that. I will see you guys next week. See you guys.